conversations we first had about this happened last late fall. The superintendent and other district officials informed all the principals in the district that there was going to be a need for doing a budget adjustment this year.
We had gone through a budget cut crisis 3 years ago. By nature was a little different. Not a lot of people knew about it. It wasn't something talked about until just right before spring break. They started talking about the fact that we had $3.6 million that had to be cut from the budget.
I'd say the options are the least negative of a bunch of negative choices, because anytime you adjust the budget, none of them were ones that we said, hooray, we get to do this. It was all, what would be the least negative is the best way of describing it. And so we came to some agreement about what those would be, and then passed those on to the superintendent. And he, last week, presented those to the school board.
I think the biggest frustration that most people have, though, is the way that it was handled and the fact that it came from one board meeting and nobody had a chance to respond, and we didn't feel like there was feedback being solicited. So we felt kind of detached from the whole process, and then to have the results be impacting students directly the way that they are is pretty disheartening.
We're a pretty small class. It's been fun just to grow with everybody and to go through high school with them, and I think it'll be a shame if people don't have these small, tight-knit classes like German has been for me.
I cried in class when we talked about it. That class means so much to me.
I think without German, more people will be crammed into Spanish and French, which will increase those class sizes, which will hurt, I think probably hurt some of the speaking practice and the one-on-one practice with teachers, which I think is really important to learning a language.
Because we don't just learn a language, we learn the history, and German history, everyone knows at least a little bit about that, but they don't know all of it. And when somebody just says German off the top, you're like, oh yeah, Heil Hitler! And without those students to be able to stand up and say, that's a stereotype, that's wrong, that's 50, 60 years out of date, so maybe you should stop. The whole quality of the school will go down without having those kids who know things to be able to share.
The perspective on foreign language has changed so much from year to year. Even just if you look at colleges, their perspective on it, I think, has a lot to do with it. If you look at UNI and Drake and some of the other schools that have been eliminating their foreign language programs, really does start to put in perspective whether or not students from the level at the junior high or high school, should they invest their time in taking a foreign language now if they know that they may not continue it in the future. And unfortunately, for French and German specifically, those are a reality. There are fewer and fewer programs that are available, not just at our state level in Iowa, but many other states that are adapting some of the similar things that our state schools have done.
I mean, I don't know how to fix it. And that's the big thing, that's what everyone's trying to figure out. But I mean, I do think some of the cuts make sense, make logical sense. Because there are things that, that get carried on later on. But completely cutting out the German program, that's on a whole different level.
I think we're going to be affected more in the future by a loss of students that have had the opportunities that our population has now. Not having the opportunity to start music programs earlier, not being able to play sports earlier, removing the entire German program from the curriculum. I think that our students are going to suffer, and we're going to notice that in the coming years.
I think there'll be some adjustment just in having. Well, we reduced our deans, academic deans, so I think there'll be some adjustment with how we provide overall supervision of the building. I think in some areas we'll see an elevation of class sizes a bit. And I think that we'll see fewer classes that are under 24 kids, students in them. So we're trying to reduce the very small classes so we don't have to elevate classes into well beyond 30. We're really working not to have the class size elevation so high that it really affects what goes on in our classrooms.